Well, hello, friends. Oop, there we go. Hi, welcome. My name is Crimson Clad. It's another cool weekend here. And cool only refers to us because it is hot where I am. I am literally wearing a dress today. Hot in Vancouver. I hope you are all doing so fabulous. We're going to test some stuff today because, of course, it's always an adventure on CyberBuzz, and I'm super stoked to have you guys here. So what is going to happen is I am going to leave my window open, which I never do because I'm scared it's going to be really noisy. I got a fan above me going. I got this window in front of me open. If it gets really noisy, please hop in the chat and be like, Crimson Clad, I hate you. You suck. I can't hear anything. And if you do that, then we will be laughing. I will say, if you were here for the countdown and you heard that track by Ultra Boss, it's called Night Cry, and it is super 80s and super fun. So I'm stoked. I am hoping just maybe, baby, I can lure a couple more people in. I always manage to snag a couple people over the course of the week. Today, my plan is to actually ask a little bit about what people want to know about the upcoming Hive Hardfork. But of course, I have to have live chatters in here to kind of suck all that great information out of your minds. It will be coming up pretty soon if everything goes amazing this weekend. Then what will happen is we will probably have the date in the code finalized, and we will be hard forking on August 9th. So, you know, if you're not a Hive user or whatever, did you stream at 5 minutes till? I thought I did, but I don't know. I also thought it didn't matter because I've seen people do it at like 3, 2, 1 minute. So now I don't know anymore, Ron. I legitimately just don't know. Honestly, every time I start the stream, I do something wrong, but hey! It's fine. Don't worry about it. Nobody comes to the Saturday shows anymore. Nobody comes to my shows anymore. So for those of you who are here, you become massive, incredible VIPs. It's all part of the plan, folks. It's all part of the, wow, we hate you, stop streaming forever plan. It's good. I got this. Don't even worry about it. But yeah. So there's a lot of new stuff, and the reality is I want to kind of canvas regular users. I even tweeted today, and so here we are. It goes to show you that most people probably come just to talk and to listen to Synthwave, and that's fair. If that's why you come to CyberBuzz, we will still cover that off. But it sounds like after all this that today will kind of just be a whatever day. So if you notice, I will probably be adjusting a lot over the course of the show because wearing a dress on air feels scandalous. But if you're just listening and you're just hanging, we'll talk a little bit about this and we'll see what we can do. And like I said, please let me know. I can hear a lot of traffic noise through my window. If you guys can hear it, hey Mariano, good to see you. If you guys can hear it, then we'll have to figure out how we're gonna handle it. I have a nice big cup of cold black coffee here, like my heart, cold and black. And so we'll kind of go over this because one of the things that we really want to do is kind of get some good comms out there for Hive, right? This is a thing that in a decentralized ecosystem, Lord only knows, many, many times we have talked about sort of the lack of, it's hard to figure out who's going to say what, who's going to do what, how we're going to handle it. And so the big thing is getting out official comms from the Hive.io account. I am going to write some posts and I'm actually going to record some companion short videos, do some animations, try to get that all out there so people have an understanding of this hard fork because it's a pretty cool one, and a lot of it has to center around essentially really reduced hardware requirements, really fast replay times, and a lot of modularity. Now, you know, for a regular user, that probably doesn't sound very exciting. So the reality is I've got to figure out what you guys are most interested in, especially the lay people, and find ways to translate that. Yes, any improvement to the API. Well, yes. So the modularity aspect is that, and I'm going to do as much writing about it as I can. But the long and the short of it especially is most of HiveD runs off something called account history. And so, you know, when you're kind of trying to pull information about somebody's account, you have to make a call to account history in a lot of cases. It is really, writing. I don't know. Listen, I'm already sensitive today. I can't do anything right. Like, these shows are dying. Everything is dying. Everything I do for Hive ends up being kind of in the background and quiet. Just let me talk about it here. Let me find out everyone's needs here. Let me translate that into something that can be easily read, that can be disseminated to people who want to read. And then, yes, I will try and find time sometime this weekend, which I normally charge a lot of money for, to record a video and do some animations and try and get something really cool out so that people have a better understanding. So if you want to hear it, you can hear it. If you don't want to hear it, you don't have to hear it. Choose whatever you like. So yeah, the long and the short of it is account history is just such a heavy burden for our API nodes to make calls to. It requires tons of space. There's so much information. Think about account history on a blockchain that has essentially 5 + 6 years of information. It's a lot to sift through. It's a lot to go back and pull out of the ledger and display. And so one of the hardest things, especially for dApps, node runners at home, infrastructure providers, account history, it requires a lot. It's got a high cost, it's got a high time cost, and providing it as part of your API node or as part of your own custom setup is expensive. It's expensive and fussy. And it's been one of the biggest kind of hurdles and problems around making sure that Hive and Hive-D, which is the software that runs the Hive blockchain, can be done easily. So in this case, account history will be changing. It'll be handled by the HAF. We're calling it HAFA, which is HAF, H-A-F, Hive Application Framework. Blocktrades has basically gone through, and through the whole course of this development with his team, he's been posting about it. I'm going to be distilling that down into some useful sort of bite-sized information. HAFA is Hive Application Framework Account History. It's going to become so much easier to run and use. It's going to require a lot less. There are a lot of other exciting things that come along with this hard fork. There's resource credit delegations. There is some crazy aspects to compression and compressed block logs and, consensus nodes and block producing nodes being able to actually exchange compressed blocks. This stuff is not quite as exciting for you guys. So for me, it's going to be, how do I write that in a way that you understand it really easily and also that you understand why it's cool and important? But yeah, I agree. Patient Zero's like, that sounds cool. And then he clarifies that he's not being facetious. And yeah, it is. It is cool. Because decentralization is obviously our mission. Decentralization is obviously one of the biggest goals of this blockchain. Community run, more node runners, more infrastructure, more redundancy, wider spread, easier to use. No, not literally off the chain, still on the chain. Just the way that it's set up and the way that everything's going to be handled is new and shiny and clean and fresh and logical and economical versus sort of the old account history, which is none of those things. So no, you're not going to suddenly see sort of all of this information being dumped out of the chain or anything like that. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. But yeah, so the big thing is this is the number one thing that people will understand for sure. There's just no doubt. Hive Application Framework, Blocktrades, it's such a dad joke, and I'm sure, I know he knows it, but it is a good joke nonetheless. If you've heard him speak about HAF, you'll hear when he says HAF, H-A-F, Hive Application Framework, he says, if you want to spin up a new dApp, or if you want to get a service running, or you want to build something on Hive, half the work is already done for you. It's so bad, but it's so good because it's the truth. It's the truth. And this, for a long time, has been a huge problem for people. No. What? I don't know what the no is for it. I'm not, it's probably about the stupid stream stickers. I gotta figure out how to tell that thing. No! Why would you ping him? Oh my God. Fuck. Rohan, let the poor man alone. They're doing production testing this weekend. If you want this hard fork to happen, leave the poor guy alone. But yes, I think it's a great joke. So whatever it is, you know, as terrible and dad jokey as it is, the reality is that it's very accurate. It's very accurate. It's not being told because it's a dad joke. It is a terrible play on words that lets you realize, hey, here's exactly what's going to happen. And up to this point, it is absolutely true that for people wanting to get in and build on Hive, the learning curve is high. The infrastructure costs are really expensive. And so, you know, up to this point, Deathwing and Block Trades are two of the biggest infrastructure providers, NEX as well. There are a couple of really well-balanced node clusters that are handling the bulk of sort of the professional front ends and the biggest projects. But the idea has always been in a decentralized ecosystem to make sure that dApps and services and games and whoever enters into this ecosystem can spin up a node, can configure it the way they need to, and can then basically go forward and build and enjoy that part and not worry about the sort of nitpicky bits of really learning server management and really kind of spending a lot of time, arguably too much time, worrying about best practices because they can't afford the monthly bills to run infrastructure that they control. That is a little bit of the antithesis of what we're trying to do with a decentralized blockchain. You know, often on this show, we talk about how important it is in Web3 to have decentralization. That's what makes Web3 Web3. And we talk a lot about, you know, the censorship resistance aspect, or the ability to carry your own data with you aspect, or the ability to double check the ledger. You know, all of these things that kind of really focus in on self-sovereignty, on personal responsibility, on personal ability. All of these things are pretty important. And, you know, we've kind of always talked about it. You can do this. You could go out. You can learn to spin up a node. All of these things you can do. And up to this point, that was true, but it was also hard. And so the biggest kind of step forward with this next hard fork is to make sure that people coming into the ecosystem, sorry, guys. It's a beautiful hot day and all the people are motorcycling by on their way out to the mountains. You know, the biggest focus is how do we make that easier? If we want people to be excited about that aspect of build on Hive because it's fast and it's feeless and it's easy, it costs less, you know, the ability to share information and have crazy, awesome, unique identities tied to wallet addresses that also can handle second layer and can be a universal login. You know, all of the best stuff about Hive, we haven't always made it easy from a technological standpoint for people to take advantage of it. And that's the next big thing. How do you get more games, more communities, more tokens, more dApps and services building on Hive? Well, unfortunately, you have to remove the roadblocks and the costs for them to do so. That's where we're at. So, you know, that my idea was if I tweeted today and the notification went out and everything got going, the idea was we'd get a lot more people in here and we could start talking about what are the questions that you have about some of these topics. How can I distill those down into a really great communication that will help people understand what is to come? Because that's what's important. You know, we are now moving into the space where the tech stuff is handled. It's handled. We're good to go. You know, we're getting ready to change and have this date set in stone. You know, feature freeze is already essentially in. I might have to close my window. Feature freeze is in. Testing is here. The date is in the code. Can we say, yep, this is the date? Then it becomes talking to exchanges, getting ready for all of the dApps, and oh God, patient zero. He's like, that ain't even the half of it. So that's kind of where my head was at. But of course, because these are the beautiful dog days of summer, the middle of the afternoon on a gorgeous Saturday, depending on where you are, it's amazing. It's amazing. Ron, don't threaten listeners. Don't ping people and don't threaten listeners. Okay, so basically, we may end up just shooting the shit and just talking today and having it just be completely chill. But if more people do manage to make their way in and people are interested in this particular topic, then we'll continue with it. Because either way, I've got to get this stuff done in preparation. So, I mean, I'm going with or without you, but I'd love to have more feedback if that were the case. Most of the stuff on today's playlist is fun, super 80s, really upbeat. I've got some chiptune even. It's not quite as dark, dystopian, techno, cyberbuzz as often the music that I pick will be. But in this case, I am going to kind of keep in line with that first track. I'm going to play some music for you guys. I'm going to see what I can do. I even have, you guys are going to kill me, I even have some quasi-disco music. Because, you know what? You need to learn to have fun. So, I will try and rustle up some people, and if not, I'll sit here and I'll sip my black coffee. I'll judge you in the background. Harbinger music. Normally, Gattaca, you are right. Normally, a lot of this music is super dark, and there is a brand new Daniel Deluxe track that I was thinking about playing. I love dark synth, and I love kind of creepy, like Blade Runner-esque dystopian synthwave music. But you know what? The sun is shining so bright. It's hot. It's beautiful. There is this sort of buzz of excitement in the air around the Hive blockchain. And, you know, if you're not a Hiver and you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. Doesn't matter. We can still have fun today. So that's what we're going to do. It's kind of going to be a very 80s leaning throwback episode. And we'll listen to a lot of music. We'll see if we can rustle up some blockchain questions. And then we'll go there. Thank you. Sorry, I'm not always prepared for the follows. So cheers. Thank you. And you're right. Those kind of music vibes, even when the sun is hot, you could always have a little bit of. And trust me, as a metal and synthwave girl who's a little on the spooky side, like hot sunny days is still me basically. This might be the cheeriest outfit I own. And even then, it's still a shade of black. It just have plants on it. But I live in black. I live in black. I'm a dark, spooky lady. So yeah, like sunny days, you'll see me with like a parasol and a hat in the shade, like listening to, you know, Vraid or like some other like insane black metal band or whatever. But today is about synths. So let's do that. Okay. So what do I have lined up for you? What about synthwave like in the Drive movie? Yeah, same kind of deal. It's somewhere in the middle. That would be classified almost as like Outrun. And so you're thinking probably the most classic track of all, which is Kavinsky, Night Call. That was pretty much what put synthwave on the map, was the Drive movie and that particular track. Like Kavinsky, very much that soundtrack took synthwave to the wider population. And we do often play music like that on the show. So we'll just see. You're gonna have to find out what I've got loaded up for you today. But over the course, I do this every Saturday, and I don't always talk about Hive. That just happens to be a today kind of thing. But hi Julia, I love a good pity listen. Thanks, babe. That sounded sarcastic. It wasn't. So you got to see what I've got kind of booked up for today, because every week it changes. There are always different themes and whatnot. I know it's smoking hot out where Julia is. I hope your day's going well and that all of your vegetables are growing and the sea is, you know, the waves are crashing in beautifully and you're having a time. Let's do. Okay, I am going to play a track called Retribution, an artist called New Arcades. It's pretty brand new. I'm going to play this for you guys here, and then we will move in to even more bright 80s stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about Hive, and we'll kind of focus in on some of the stuff that we can communicate about this upcoming Hardfork, and some of the questions you guys might have, because that's usually a pretty good indicator of good ways for me to talk about these things and how to kind of how to communicate this stuff in a way that is exciting and understandable. And that's important. That's what we're missing, and that's what we got to do. So if you're cool with that, I'm cool with you. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz, and it's true. I mean, yeah. I am recording this, and I did post this to Hive, so I'm trying not to be too self-deprecating for people who actually come here to get information. But like every part of me is just wants to be like, nobody wants to be here, so why don't I just leave? It's very unhelpful. Oh God, you know, if you ever want your soul crushed over and over and over again, and your spirit just sucked out of your body and sent off into the void, become a live streamer. Especially on beautiful days where people want to be outside. Okay, so let's do it. Let's continue. I'm going to play this track called Retribution. Super 80s vibes on CyberBuzz today. And then we'll just kind of see where the show takes us, right? Right. Let's do it. right, there you go. Let me try and pause this because it's gonna keep playing. Hey, so there you go. Some oh hey Zeus. I tried to say hey Zeus and then panicked about how many hey noises came with it. Yes, exactly, very much like Night Ride. So there you go. Yeah, some pretty good vibes for sure. Things will continue on as we move forward today. Okay, so oh wait, now you've Yeesus? Yeesus, is that how you prefer it said? Or how it is actually said? One of the best parts of this show is that you guys come to watch, I see your name, I make an assumption on how to say your name, and then I say your name like that forever. And it doesn't matter if that's not your name. That's still how I say it. basically, once I've decided it's horrible and your life will be absolutely forever ruined from there on out. So at the start of the show, in between being incredibly self-deprecating and being annoyed because I'm looking out my window here, you know, it's the only problem with having the show at this time. The sun is shining, my window in front of me. The sky is so blue. There's not a single cloud. It's hot, but there's a perfect breeze. The trees in the forest are swaying in front of me. The mountains are behind them, still capped with snow. It is really hard not to just sort of like yeet myself out this window and run off into the woods. And so, you know, it doesn't make a lick of sense for me to be disappointed that other people must be feeling that way. Oh, you should say it like geez. No, it's, so here's the deal. We could say it Jesus or Jesus or Jesus, any of those things. The problem is everybody gets a little weirded out around that type of Latin name because obviously Jesus is sort of a big deal to some of the population. And so people are often like, well, so Spanish says Jesus, is that the way that it's said? And also like, Jesus is Jesus. So, you know, it's one of those things. People get weird about it. What can I say? You share a name with a famous guy. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyways, so that's why we just assume it isn't, because people are like, oh, what if he's actually Jesus? Oh, gosh. So Chinese people have problems speaking Russian names. Fair. I would argue that really, if you pick almost anybody with their own native language and then you pick another entirely different language from a different continent, that people struggle. But yeah, Asian languages, especially R's and L's, the way that their language is formatted and the way that the human body develops, very different from place to place. Linguistic theory is very interesting. And so, you know, as you learn a language like English, if your native language has been like, say, Japanese, the sounds and even the way your tongue moves is very different. It's interesting, for sure. Okay, so we took a tangent. That's what we always do. Today's show, believe it or not, I actually tweeted, where is this channel from? I am from Canada. I live in Canada, but I am broadcasting out on MSP Waves, an internet radio live streaming network that is powered by the blockchain. And so a lot of today's show that I'm talking about is about that blockchain. It's a blockchain called Hive. And I've kind of been working in this ecosystem since the legacy blockchain, and now we have a hard fork coming up. So I'm talking a little bit about that and playing some music as well, and we'll just kind of see how today goes. Do I know French? I know just enough French to know that I sound absolutely ridiculous speaking French. I can understand if you speak very slowly. Conversationally, I can understand maybe about 50% of what's going on. If I speak very slowly, conversationally, I can say maybe like 1% of the needed dialogue that I need to say in French. Bonjour. There's actually not a lot of places in Canada that speak French. Interesting. Vash wants me to talk in French. Well, that's because Vash wants to laugh at me. One time I told Vash that in French that I speak poor French, and he corrected me on the right way to say, I think I said I have bad French. I think I said something like, j'ai mauvais français. And he was like, no. And he gave me a better way to say I'm bad at French. And I don't remember what it was because I'm bad. And so, like, for me, I want to say something like, oh, everyone speaks too fast for me. And so, unfortunately, to put that sentence together, I have to think like everyone, okay, tout le monde speaks vite, too fast, trop vite. And so then I put it all together. But of course, that's not how sentences are constructed. I'm thinking in English and trying to construct a French sentence in English, and it doesn't work that way. And it's terrible, and people will laugh at you, especially in Quebec, if you speak anglicized French. So I just don't. And in fact, the best way that I've figured to get by in Quebec and places in Canada that do speak French is somebody will come up to me and they'll be like, which is a very racist French impersonation. And I'll be like, ah, ouais, c'est ça. Ouais, ah, ouais, c'est ça. Ouais, ouais, c'est ça. You just kind of draw it all together. Ouais, c'est ça. C'est ça, that's it. Oh, gosh. And here I was thinking today was going to be a very Hive-centric episode. Boy, oh boy, I'm going to have to cut out all the parts about being a whiner and speaking really, really racist French. Yeah, so that's like my French is not very good. So yeah, and I usually say mon français est très mauvais. Very bad. It's very, very bad. But again, when I'm thinking in English and translating on the fly, it usually doesn't work because I translate word by word. So coming back around, can I speak French? Yeah, not really. Je ne sais pas. I just don't fucking know. Okay, now what? Oh, right. So at the start of the show, what we were talking about is we were talking a little bit about the Hive Hardfork upcoming. And we were saying that this weekend is kind of an important weekend because we have set a date in the code. Now, this is not the first time that a date has been set in the code. And of course, this is pretty standard. Hive is open source. And so this is one of those things that people kind of... if you know where to look, you will always find these little tidbits of information hidden in the code. But not everybody knows where to look, right? Makes sense. So in the code, how does the blockchain know when to have a hard fork? There is a date that is actually set in the code, and that date, you know, magically... that date magically is there unless a change is made to it. And so for most people who don't go and check the code while it's under development, they're like, yeah, hard fork is coming. But for people who know where to look, who know how to check the next upcoming hard fork date, they'll go through and they'll say, oh, I can see it. And then it'll change X amount of times as we figure out, do we need more time? Do we need more testing? Do we need to push this off? So we've been in that period for a little bit. The last little bit, initially we were thinking, end of April. Okay, let's push to like June. Okay, July. Here we are. August 9th is currently what's in the code. This weekend will kind of be the TSN turning point for that, as a bunch of extra sort of final production testing, because in testing in the background, the hard fork is run quite a few times. So witnesses like, you're probably voting for many consensus witnesses, but somebody like Gandalf, like GTG, and are there. They are running it. They are actually having the hard fork happen in the background. They're checking that everything happens. And they do this many times. They fork over and over and over, reset, come back, spin up their node again, have the hard fork happen. So there's a lot of testing going on in the background right now. If this weekend's testing goes well, that date will be finalized and we will do a big announcement. And so today's show, the idea was I want to ask people about what are the things that you're most interested in? What are the hardest concepts to understand? So I can create some communications explaining it for everyone to understand why this is a cool hard fork. Before the break, I talked a little bit about the Hive application framework. And so that's kind of where we left it. So yeah, Gattaca just kind of wandered in for the synths and stayed for the stupidity. And so as somebody who's not a blockchain user, yeah, it's fair. Not understanding blockchain is probably the majority of people on Earth right now. And it's a modern word. You're right. It's a word that really hasn't existed for very long in the public consciousness. It has existed for more than a decade, but in terms of what most people know, we're just now kind of hitting the point where people are hearing the word blockchain or cryptocurrency and starting to gain an understanding of it. You're correct. So Given that I do want to talk today about this Hardfork stuff, can't go too far backwards in explaining, but the easiest way to think of a blockchain is exactly that. If you want to visualize a blockchain as literally a big, long string of blocks, a block after a block after a block, all chained together in a big, long line. It's silly, but it's perfect. It really is. So picture that. Picture all these blocks and they're all chained together. If you want to grab the first one, all of the other ones behind it come along with it. And in this case, what it basically is every one of those blocks is a box, and inside it is information. That's what you need to know about blockchain. Big, long chain of blocks. They are all attached. They are all related, and they all go in order, chained all together. And you can go and you can open any one of those boxes and look at the information inside. So that's really cool for holding information about money, about tokens, about data that you want to hold on to forever, that you want to find in this giant set of boxes full of information. The big thing that makes blockchain confusing, because that's not that hard a concept, is it? When you visualize it, it's not a hard concept. But the big thing that makes blockchain confusing is that not one person holds this blockchain. Many people do. And in fact, there are copies of this same long chain of blocks spread all around the world. Different people, countries, continents, everywhere. Anyone can have a copy of all of that information. And that's actually what makes it so powerful, because it means that if one person can't run the infrastructure anymore, if one person can't support those copies anymore, it doesn't matter, because everybody else has a copy and they all have the same copy. And what that means is if you want to go looking for all of that information held in all of those boxes, you can. No one can take it away from you. No one can change it because everybody's got the same information. But if you really just kind of go back to the name blockchain, it's the easiest way to sort of prepare your brain for the idea of what getting into an ecosystem like that is like. So for a lot of people in chat, I see Abdex has joined us and some more people are hopping in all over the other streams. The reality is a lot of these people have been in a blockchain ecosystem for quite a while now. It's not new to them. And it's very cool. If everybody has everything, it's communism. Not incorrect. But what we're talking about is information. Not everybody has tokens, but everybody knows who has the tokens. And that's really important. So let's do a really quick example before I play another track. You have $10, Gattaca. I have $10. Somebody else wants to come along, like a bank, and take our money. So the bank comes and they take my $10 and they take your $10. And we go out into the streets and we tell people the bank took our money. And everybody goes, I don't know. How do I know that? I don't know that. Because the only copy of that information was in the bank. With blockchain, I have $10. You have $10. And every single person who is running that blockchain, every single piece of infrastructure has a copy. Nobody can steal my $10 or your $10 because everybody knows that we have that much. So if the bank walks up and says, hey, that's my $10, everybody else looks at their list, all of that information, and they say, hey, that's Krim's $10. That's Gattaca's $10. In fact, you have no dollars. Sorry. What that means is there's not one centralized person that can control the ledger. There's not one centralized piece of infrastructure that dictates the truth to everybody else. That's why decentralization and blockchain in general is so important to the idea of finance, because in today's world, you don't have a lot of control over your information, over your tokens, over your money. Blockchain is looking to solve that. This is why it's important to a lot of us, is because of that decentralized aspect. So maybe this helps. Maybe it confuses you more. Wasn't what we were planning to talk about, but I love it anyway. So thank you for asking questions and doing stuff. Let us, such technology can be treated in a wrong way by being in wrong hands. Yes and no. But you know, I'd argue that almost anything could be. And so what we have to do is build communities that look to use technology positively, because pretty much all of human history has been us inventing really cool stuff and then harming each other with it immediately. It's literally what we do. It is the oldest profession. People say that like prostitution is the oldest profession. Absolutely not. We invent something and then we immediately turn it on someone else. Humans are trash. You've got to find the good humans and surround yourself with them. And when you find a good decentralized blockchain, maybe like Hive, Bitcoin, whatever, stick with that community. Find those people. Encourage good developments. Encourage things that build freedom and that build possibility and opportunity. People that want to be dangerous or shitty or harmful, ostracize them from your community. All right, listen, we will probably continue talking a little bit about Hive. And like I said, my idea was I was going to pick your guys' brains about, if I could write a decent explanation about what these changes are in the hard fork, because that's what we have to release information about it. If I can write it in layman's terms and explain it in a way that's both easy to understand and exciting, that's a decent length, then I'm going to cull that down even shorter, and I'm going to do some speaking and some animation and create a short video, TLDR, I don't want to read this shit, that is basically going to create a little summary of what this hard fork's all about. I wanted to grab from you guys, what are the key points? What are the things that for you are most important? But with only a few of us, we will probably end up talking about Synthwave and other stuff instead. And you know what? I'm fine with that too. So we already played one track. I'm going to play a track called Changed Me by an artist called Celerect. And I've played some of their music before. It's brand new. Basically, all of the music on today's playlist is brand new. It's a little bit more upbeat. It's a little bit more 80s. It's a perkier side of Synthwave, because often on this show, we talk about the retro future. We talk about technology. We talk about things that often get a little bit scary and a little bit dystopian. And the show is also fun, I swear. I don't exist solely to terrify the piss out of you guys. But with all of the topics that we've been tackling recently, especially a lot of AI, today's a good day. We're excited about an upcoming hard fork. The sun is shining. I have great company, and we can listen to some awesome synthwave here on MSP Waves. So 80s. Los Angeles, palm trees swaying in the sun. A little bit. There you go. I was doing the Carlton. Yeah, probably pretty close, hey? All right, so hey, welcome to CyberBuzz. I'm stoked to have you guys. Gattaca is a new listener joining us. I'm sorry for any of you guys watching the stream. I'm adjusting a lot. I have a tank top on under this dress, but yeah, look it, wearing a dress because it's hot. It's not a thing that I do very often, but so I'm always a little concerned about having a wide expanse of very white crimson clad on screen. You guys are going to be blinded by the non-tanness of it all. I'm rocking a cold cup of black coffee. Speaking of the Canadian, there you go. There's my Canadian flag here. And the Canadian motto, which is, of course, sorry. We are just coming up on the halfway point in this show, and I'm laughing because Abdex has got this adorable Ace Ventura gif of Jim Carrey doing a little dance. I have to say, I'm not sure if that is a if that's a Canada dig as well, because if you missed it, and I'm sure you couldn't have, our thank you. Yes, you know what? Alabaster's a great name because if we type porcelain in here, all of our bots get triggered by porcelain. They don't like porcelain at all. Alrighty then. So I'm not sure if Discord did lose audio. You guys let me know. Often it misbehaves, but you have lots of different places that you can watch, listen to the stream, either just hear what's happening, and Auntie, well, you don't know the response unless you participate. So, listen, let me quickly throw this in there. One of my favorite things is people see stuff's going on in the chat and then want to get involved and then don't know what we're talking about. And that's why the recaps are here. So, if you missed it, Trudeau got a fabulous new haircut. And by fabulous, I mean it's awful. And I think, you know, not to talk about political stuff too much on the show. Oh, you didn't have to jump in. I was teasing you. But I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you, TB. But so here's the deal. So we're just laughing a little bit about this Jim Carrey gif because lovely True Daddy Trudeau here in Canada, he was elected and everybody loved his hair. The entire world turned into a swooning mess over his wonderful flowing locks. And he just cut his hair. And he now looks like Jim Carrey from Dumb and Dumber. And the world has turned on him. His policies didn't work, but his haircut, oh man. If this is the downfall of Trudeau because he cut his hair, it's actually kind of hilarious. So anyways, oh, Canada. But yeah, so that's a great point. I really was teasing you, but you know, that's a really good point. And it wasn't the point of today's show, but you know, it's very valid. And so let's address it quickly. You know, Gattaca's joined us. Most of the people in chat and across all of the streaming platforms are blockchain centric people. And so Gattaca's just hopped in for the first day today. And I happen to be talking about the Hive Hardfork. That's a really important topic that today I was going to dedicate to. And so one of the fascinating things is here we have a new user who's a Twitch user who doesn't know about blockchain. And that's been really fascinating because here I am talking about advanced blockchain topics. And then I also have somebody cool who's just hopped in to join the community who's learning a little bit. And so one of the things is just explaining brick by brick what blockchain is, but also still tying that back into what our blockchain Hive does. But so what Tainted Blood was saying was that, well, you know, decentralized databases aren't the only sort of precursors to having a decentralized application. And you're exactly correct. dApps and foundations and DAOs and all of these weird, confusing terms that often start with a decentralized, doesn't necessarily mean anything. Just having a lot of copies of the ledger isn't enough because it could very much be that the full infrastructure is run by a centralized company, corporation. The database itself, the information in it, could indeed be decentralized across a number of points, different data centers, different places, a million copies to protect that information. But it could still be centrally controlled. And if you were to build on top of it or pull that information, doesn't mean you're actually building a decentralized app. Now, that is getting into some really nitpicky blockchain stuff, and I think it's really worth a chat. We'll see if that's where we go today, because like I said, I did kind of want to focus. You can't even imagine decentralized databases. That's okay, but we'll see where today's goes, but I feel like this may shape our conversation. But in answer to the earlier question, for you and for anybody else who's joining us, or for people who haven't come to this show before, my name is Crimson Clad. I am a lover of music. I am an educator, and I came to sort of the world of blockchain and social media because I thought I was going to share photography, and I was going to write cool stories, and I was going to share that with people. And I got sucked into how fascinating blockchain can be and all of the cool stuff that it can power. And over that time, my journey has changed from being a creator into more being an infrastructure provider and a liaison. And so what that basically means is my show started off about blockchain, and I talked about blockchain every week, and I played Synthwave every week, and we had a lot of fun, and we talked about Hive a lot, and that was it. But I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. This exact same show, this exact same day, this exact same time, 5 years I've been doing this. Sorry, Bonehead, I think it's Twitch only. So the cool part about that is that I now have a really good idea of what I'm passionate to talk about, finding great music. I've built kind of a legacy. The difference is you can only talk so much about the same thing over and over and over every week. And this show has grown. So if you come back to CyberBuzz next week, or you go back to shows from other weeks, you will find that it's grown in scope. We talk a lot about technology as it is. We talk a lot about things like the retro future, that vibe that inspired synthwave music, that Blade Runner visuals or Neo Tokyo, the idea of, technology that is crazy future technology. But the way that we envisioned it back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, tech looked a certain way in our imaginations then. And for a lot of us right now, at the age we are right now, whether we're into blockchain or not, these visions of the future from the 80s and 90s, they're a really important part of what we're inventing now. It's very cool. So if you come every week, will you hear about blockchain? Maybe, probably, not always. We talk a lot about virtual reality. We talk a lot about science fiction and fantasy. We talk about artificial intelligence. We talk about computers and video games. All of these things kind of tied in, and we listen to a lot of fun synthwave music. So today, blockchain and Hive centric. Tomorrow, who knows? So, with that being said, we have this hard fork coming up, and a lot of this really comes down to Hive is a blockchain. It's so fun to see Gatika's questions because they're really interesting, especially when talking about like a decentralized database and having Tainted Blood mention the difference between just having a database that is decentralized and building the decentralized community and services with it. Those are two different things. One, building dApps, decentralized apps and services, requires the decentralized database, but a decentralized database existing doesn't mean you end up with dApps. Question mark, right? It's a little bit crazy. So obviously our focus is on Hive. It is arguably one of the most decentralized ecosystems out there, but it's only catching up now in terms of dApps. There are open source games. There are, projects and learning tools that allow you to take this giant database full of information, this blockchain that I was telling you to visualize, this long chain of boxes full of information that you can use for whatever you want. Because that's what Hive is. It is a vast information sharing blockchain. And every 3 seconds, a new box is added to the chain, and it's full of stuff. It's full of stuff. In a lot of cases, games, social stuff, games and social. That's what Hive is really focused on right now. But that doesn't mean there won't be more opportunities for better decentralized services. That doesn't mean that there aren't things like decentralized governance baked in. And you know, a lot of places, a lot of chains, a lot of ecosystems, a lot of options out there talk about decentralized voting and talk about foundations and manage funds. But the biggest thing that Hive gets right is a very straightforward community-controlled foundation, the DHF, if you want to call it that. I always feel a little weird calling it a DAO. It truly is the Decentralized Hive Fund. It's not quite a DAO. It's not really a foundation with a controlling board. It's an interesting, weird, single thing that exists in our ecosystem. But with that being said, we've hit the halfway point of the show. At the start of the show, what I was talking about specifically are 2 of the biggest changes coming up in this next hard fork. And one of those things is delegating resource credits. That's one, a whole topic on itself. And the other thing that I mentioned was the HAF, the HAF, Hive Application Framework. And that is at the sort of heart and soul of what this next hard fork is going to do. It's going to make it less expensive to run infrastructure. Why is that important? Because if you are trying to come in and spin up your own dApp, or you are trying to become one of the infrastructure providers on the network, there should be the lowest barrier to entry. Anybody should be able to figure out how to do it. And not just should anybody be able to figure out how to do it, it should be accessible and equitable in terms of cost and in terms of resources needed. Now, it's understandable that a really big blockchain requires pretty big resources. But the more work we do and the better optimization that happens at that layer 1, that blockchain level for something like HAF, we can be smarter about how we store that information in the blockchain, and we can be smarter about how we go and get it and retrieve it. And the smarter that we work on that front with something like HAF, the faster people can spin up new dApps. The easier it will be for a developer who wants to get into the decentralized space to learn how to work in our ecosystem. And frankly, if we want to encourage true decentralization, anyone and everyone should have that opportunity to be able to spin up a node. And up to this point, you know, it was fine. It was, 250 gig, 500 gig. People are starting to run a terabyte now, 2 terabytes. Like in today's world, in terms of, especially if you're going to be renting a server, it's getting quite expensive and it's getting very big. What do we do about that? How do we take that very unavoidable and natural process and mitigate for it? How do we make it easier for people to join this decentralized ecosystem? Because that's the important part. Half a dApp will do. I make one half joke and it's all downhill from here, babies. But yeah. And so the reality is we want developers who haven't necessarily thought about decentralized ecosystems before. We want developers who are curious about blockchain and crypto. We want developers or even just business owners who have great ideas that probably decentralized infrastructure could add something to. But maybe they don't have the skills or the knowledge, or maybe they don't have the resources yet. How do we help provide that? And that's the kicker, isn't it? So that's sort of where this hard fork really is going to shine. And that's why I'm kind of thinking, what are the most important points and how do I best explain them? Because this is the information that we got to take outwards and be like, dudes, come check it out. Come join us. We're having a lot of fun. And we also have an ecosystem that can power whatever it is you want to make. What do you want to make? Who do you want to hang out with? What's a problem you want to solve? Do you want to pair some form of centralized gaming with decentralized backup so that people can feel safe and comfortable in owning their data and maybe some play to earn funds? Whatever the case may be, You can build things on top of a decentralized ecosystem that have centralized aspects. And especially for businesses and services, that's going to be part of it. For sure it is. But for the things that protect a user and protect a community, the decentralized aspect gives a developer, a business manager, whoever, a community builder, it gives them the tools to build something that fulfills the needs of users, but also respects their autonomy. That's really cool. And that's why I love this ecosystem so much. Hive is like a nightclub in the Deus Ex games. I really like Deus Ex, I'm not gonna lie. I want to be augmented. I need to have cool Adam Jensen eyes. All right, so that's kind of where today got going. And there's definitely more aspects of this to touch on. And, you know, in the background, Hive is kind of a nightclub, isn't it? It's full of all sorts of people from everywhere, and it's got dark and shadowy corners. It's got a big neon sign at the entrance, and sometimes people are coming in here because they want to hang out, and sometimes people are coming in here because they want to, sell something in the bathroom. And yeah, there's a lot of similarities there, absolutely. And it's a good vibe for today's show. So, since we've hit the halfway point, I gotta say that game is horrible. Aw, you didn't like it? I will say that I have not revisited Deus Ex since I was quite young. And so if I go back and I think about the first Deus Ex, the very first one, when I was in the very beginning of high school, I think. I remember this was still when PC Gamer as a magazine was very exciting, or you would go out and like get a Nintendo Power magazine, rather than getting like Teen Bop or Teen Beat or Tiger Beat or whatever the hell the girl one was. I would pick up PC Gamer mag or whatever. And I remember seeing the first sort of Deus Ex full page ad. And it was just like a blue-black, and my memory is changing over time, right? Because memories get rosier as time goes on. I remember being like, however old I was in grade 8 or 9 or whatever. And it was just him, and he's illuminated, and he's wearing these sort of slick Matrix-esque glasses and like a trench coat, and he's just looking up, and that's the whole ad. And I remember being like, whoa, whoa. And then I immediately went out and got the game and played it and thought it was awesome. So, I mean, let's face it, not intellectually the sharpest time of my life, but at the time, I thought it was super fun. It was super fun. And we were all kind of riding high on, again, yes, that sort of future techno 90s, Matrix-esque, like us versus them, tech revolutionary vibe. And it just kind of... It was the right thing at the right time. And many of us were young enough that we weren't thinking very much about the storyline in terms of conspiracy theory or whatever else. We were just like, oh shit, I'm a cyborg. Whoa, I'm going to jump out of my fucking apartment building and I'm going to run down the street. I'm going to get a cool robot arm and then I'm going to shoot someone in the face. Yeah. That's how I remember it. So, if it outs me as a very basic gamer bitch, so be it. But I will say also, I've never returned to it. I've never gone back. And now I can't go back. Isn't that, Metal Gear Solid also. So many good games from that time period, God. But the problem is this is what I've learned. Very few games you can't go back. People say that a lot about everything, not just video games. Oh, you can't go back. You can't. For a lot of things that are very rosy for you right now, respect that sort of, that patina, that rosy, beautiful patina of age and nostalgia. Respect it. Love it. Adore it. Don't do things to shatter that illusion. If you love something old... This is going to sound terrible from a people perspective, but if you love something old, think about how cherished the memories are and decide whether or not you want to take on board something that has the potential to change those memories. It's very important. That's all I'm saying. There are certain games that I love very much, and then you go back and play and you recognize they're terrible, but you still love them. Now everybody, all I'm going to think about in chat is snake, 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 no! Yes. So yes, all of the chats are connected. Everybody everywhere can see what everybody else is saying. There is a relay that goes back and forth. We have gone from Hive to video games to music to philosophy chat. And you know what? That's how this show works. My name is Crimson Clad, and this is CyberBuzz Radio. It's future retro tech. It is synthwave. It's blockchain and disruptive technology. And yeah, it's pretty fun, honestly. So Taintful is saying, anywhere a city is built, consumers must be created. But I feel like the companion to that is, anywhere people gather, marketplaces form. And so they go hand in hand. If you want to have a place that can, thrive where people gather, you need to make a form of commerce. But arguably, anywhere people do naturally congregate, commerce will happen. If enough people are in one place, let's be very realistic, they will start trading services, selling each other things, etc. And that's the cool part of a community like Hive. And that's the idea behind these sort of decentralized commons, is people come together and they can transact value however they want. Now, in a lot of cases, physically, and in traditional marketplaces or services or whatever, in the real world, the meat sack world where you literally need to physically exist at any given point in time, there are a lot of hurdles to overcome. But in a digital space, and especially in a place like blockchain, suddenly you have people globally who are gathering based around interests, games, whatever, financial ideas, music, streams. People are congregating on a different level, and they're transacting value on a different level. It is no longer physically, you have to hand me $1, Bob. No. In a lot of cases, the value between you and I and how we monetize and all of the ways that we think about information and what has an actual tangible value to us has changed a lot with how we gather digitally. And blockchain, in a lot of ways, is at the heart of that. So, this snake in chat is so cute. He's so cute. Look at how blue he is. He's so cute. All right, so, oh, yes, actual Japanese GIF. So everybody's making fun of me. Snake, 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 snake. No! I will say, the games, Metal Gear Solid games over time recognized what they were pretty much immediately and have just continued to blow that aspect of them up. And now they are these giant parodies of themselves, and somehow by being so self-aware, they get better and better and better. I don't know. I like video games. Okay, so more music. Yes? Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to play a little bit more music, and then we'll come back and we'll have the second half of the show to either talk about Hive or video games or whatever you guys want to talk about. And I will touch a little bit more on some of the upcoming Hardfork changes and some of the opportunities around that. And we'll see where the day, the night, whatever time it is for you. Yeah, see, look at Abdex is like, Crim, shut the fuck up. Play some music. Heard, understood, acknowledged. Hooah! Let's do it. So I did promise that I was going to play you guys some disco. I promised you guys I was going to play some disco. And half of you will immediately panic and leave. And half of you will be like, I hate this. And then, because I'm a girl and girls can't math, also, making everybody mad, the other 2% of people left over between the two halves will be like, yeah, okay, I like this. So I have an artist that I love, and his name is Meteor, and he puts out, not meteor like a meteor sausage, but like meteor is like whoosh, rock in the universe sparkling through the sky. So keep your excitement in your pants and your mind out of the gutter for like 14 more minutes. So Meteor has done a lot of music that I've played on this show, a lot of great synthwave, and especially kind of like down tempo, kind of like outrun vibes that we think of as classical synthwave. But just put out an album in May, I think, called Phantom Zone. And I saw it because it has a really cool cover. It has a skull on the cover. For many of you guys getting to know me, you'll know I kind of have a thing for skulls. I'm really into skulls. There are skulls all over my office. A lot of the artwork, a lot of the things that I have, a lot of the gifts from listeners are skulls. Viking Adventure got me this. I wish she'd come back. So yeah, you know, a lot of skull related things make me happy. I mean, I'm wearing, I don't know if you guys can see this, my little skull ring. Actually, I'm wearing 2 different types of skull ring. Look at this little chain of skulls. How cute is that? Most people don't realize until they look at my hands and are like, oh, is that a sword and a skull? And I'll be like, yes, fuck you. So I literally picked up this album because I thought the cover looked cool. And then I went through a bunch of the tracks and I'm like, hot damn, this actually is really, really good. And I always try his music. So here is the deal. I'm going to play you a track. Called Disco Ninja. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is synthwave if you wrote a synthwave track about a ninja. So there are sort of some slight Asian musical influences in terms of melody. But also if you just smashed that into a disco song. And it's going to confuse a lot of you. And I enjoy doing that. So we're going to listen to it. And we'll see how many people stick around after. But I think this is a lot of fun. And to be honest, I have a soft spot for disco. And I've told this story once or twice on Full Force Radio. And I'll tell it here once, and then I'll play the song. When I was growing up, I've been so lucky that all of the pursuits in my life have been heavily influenced by my friends and family. But growing up, when I was a very young child, both of my parents worked in the tech industry. Both of my parents were software programmers growing up. And so what that meant is often I was exposed to things that were a little higher tech than what other people would have in their homes at that age. And my parents were both really into music and reading books. So growing up, I was just getting hand-me-down full paperback novels really early. Reading was a big thing. Listening to music was a big thing. And very, very, very young, my dad taught me how to put a record on the record player. And I remember the record that he would put on all the time, and you guys have heard this, but some of you are new. The record that he would put on all the time was the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. You know, the disco movie, John Travolta? And on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack had a song that when I was young, I was obsessed with called A Fifth of Beethoven. And it was a disco funk remix of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And so when I was a kid, like really, really young in diapers kind of kid, this would be the song that Dad would put on and I would dance to. And so when I got just old enough to understand that records are very delicate and, you know, the record needle is very delicate, the record that he taught me with a lot of reverence and gentleness to put on the record player is if I wanted to listen to this song that I loved so much, I needed to learn how to carefully use the record player. And so I remember how it felt to use this technology as a really young kid, really young. You know, you have these, your motor skills suck, you're young and you're carefully holding this record that, oh, don't drop it, don't scratch it, oh, don't touch it. You know, it's this crazy relationship with tech that at that time feels like magic. Look at this, it's flat, but it makes music. And, carefully going and putting it on the player and carefully moving this needle over and then taking your hand back and then pressing the button. And then once you're dancing, you can't jump up and down too much because you don't want to make the record skip. Like everything about it, there's this very visceral relationship that I had with records. And I often talk about this story and it's so stupid. But what it means is that a little part of me really loves the idea of things that are mashed up with disco. As a metalhead, as a synthwave enjoyer, as someone who often works in the disruptive tech space, when people find this out, they usually lose their minds and judge me a lot. And my answer to you is, go ahead and fucking judge, or have fun and dance. One is more fun than the other.
質的な戦士のあり方は宇宙の深淵よりの偉大な言霊の愛情を今や遅しと待ちわびていた。そして今日その時が来た。巻物の予言した現実ではないが、奴は目覚めたのだ。そう、ディスコ忍者は
There you go. It's sorry, I don't even care. It's so much fun. Oh Lord. So there you go. Disco Ninja, right? I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of want to be like, this is me turning up my nose. It's not me making a pig nose. Turning up your nose is something you're like, ugh, disco. Or you could just be like, so, you know, have fun. Choose to have fun. Choose to enjoy. But yes, if you like tracks like that, then check out Vashmort. That's Julia's worthy companion, or arguably Julia is his worthy companion. You know, the reality is they're both amazing and on the same level in different spaces. So whatever, go find Vash. He makes cool music, often weird, fun mashups. He does funk and he does jazz and he does all sorts of cool stuff like that. He mixes up, you know, what would be a more traditional music style with something totally wild and off the wall. And often he does it in one take because he's super talented. But also, yeah, it's a good album. Go check it out. Has a cool skull on the cover. So Uncle Bonehead, in the background there, I noticed you sent me a Hive tip. Thank you. And you did that from Vim TV. So what I have learned is that I don't have alerts set up, and that's something that I'm going to have to experiment with because obviously that's an important part of live streaming. You need to get the sound and the GIF and the alert, so I'll figure out how to do it for Hive. But thank you very much, because that's cool. You don't have to send me a tip, and when you do, it is greatly, greatly appreciated. So cheers, man. All right, we have about half an hour left in the show. We have had a wide range of things that we have talked about today. We have talked about, you know, Hive from a very, like, in it perspective. We have talked about it from a high-tech perspective, and also talking a lot about the upcoming Hardfork. And then, wonderfully, Gattaca just kind of fell into our laps here, and has been talking about blockchain as well. So we've done a little bit of everything. We've done some sort of layman's perspective of blockchain. We've talked about sort of the intricacies and nuances of Hive technology. And then we've kind of bounced around in the middle talking about dumb stuff like video games and everything else. So we are now, we're now kind of in the back end of the show. Everybody's rooting around in the back end. And we've still got some stuff to touch on. So one of the things that, that people have sent me some good questions on, and that I'm going to write about for sure, but that I do want to kind of remind people exists as part of this hard fork, is resource credit delegation. So a lot of people often ask how this blockchain works, how resource credits work, how do we know how much you get to do, you know, if it's free and I don't have to pay gas fees, how come the network isn't overloaded? And, you know, over the course of the years on this show, we've discussed the resource credits and how they, sorry, read the mug. Maybe I won't leave my window open anymore, but you guys have been very good about putting up with it because, oh my gosh, it's so hot. It's so hot here. Cripes. So resource credits are a really important part of load balancing on the Hive blockchain. You have stake. You stake your Hive as Hive power, and then you get resource credits that correspond to how much you have staked. And those resource credits constantly replenish, but you spend them instead of your Hive. Hey, Blue! You spend those resource credits instead of actually wasting your Hive. And the beautiful thing about that is you're not losing your funds to use the network the funds are on. It's always been good. It's a tricky thing to understand, but once you get it, you're like, hell yeah. So, talking about that, what we do know is that, resource credits, in terms of an individual user, they're really functional. They make a lot of sense. But there's also kind of this magic tipping point on Hive, whereas an individual user, you end up having more resource credits than you can use. Once you start stacking some Hive, using the layer 2 tokens, getting involved with games or starting to use something like Leo Finance, you kind of branch out and you inherently, over time using the network, build up a bit of stake. And then you realize your resource credits never run out. You've got more than enough. You're doing great. Well, here's the deal. As we bring new people into the network, and especially as we have onboarding opportunities, whether that's through Splinterlands or whether that is through Leo Finance or 3Speak or Vim or Oriole or whatever it is that you use that is powered by Hive, new users come in. They don't have a lot of resource credits. And more importantly, when these front ends or these onboarding opportunities are creating accounts, it's troublesome for them too, because to create accounts takes up resource credits. That is at the sort of the center, the heart of what we're doing now, which is to make these resource credits delegatable. Somebody who has a big ass pile of stake, just a lot kicking around, will have resource credits that are going unused. And so if you want to perhaps delegate those to a platform so they can make more new accounts, if you want to delegate some of these resource credits to a new user so they can take action, this is really cool. Because before, one of the hardest concepts that I've ever had to explain on this show was the idea of delegated stake. The idea that, yes, this is my stake and it entitles me to take actions on the network. And in fact, when I'm curating, entitles me to a return on the items I curate. Before this, always I would have to explain about delegating stake and how it's like saying, well, I'm lending you my money and all the power that comes with it, but I'm not letting you hold my money. You can use it, you just can't touch it. I am not going to worry about you being able to steal it. It's impossible. I'm going to lend it to you without you ever being able to take it from me. Really important part of Hive. But before, that was the only way that you could sort of help somebody out. Now, resource credits means you don't have to. Yeah, Blue Robo is going to be MC hammering across the chat here. You can't touch it. That's right. Disco and MC Hammer and Metal Gear Solid. And what else have we been talking about today? Ridiculous. What a dumb chat today's been. You guys are great. I love you. Oh, Scaredy Cat's here. Scaredy Cat, scare. What do you want to bet he's here because I happen to wear a sundress today? I'm teasing. But yes, definitely. I probably should have put that in the tweet before the show, and then more people would have showed up. It's a limited time event that doesn't happen often. Ta-da! So, sounds like a mix from Miami Vice. Yes, Y-E-S. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, before we got on a tangent there, the idea being, we want to make it now because a lot of things, as time goes on, we're kind of decoupling from the intent to earn on layer 1 curating. That's not the only thing to do on Hive anymore. Everybody's like, oh shit, video stream. Yeah, I mean, it's close to appropriate, but I do feel a little self-conscious in it, even with a tank top underneath. So here's the deal. We know that for things like second layer systems and, yeah, Scaredy Cat's here and everybody else, let's talk about something like Leo Finance or like Splinterlands. A lot of what you're doing is powered by the Hive blockchain, but it's not necessarily actually using Hive as a token or a currency. So now what do? How do you start, how do you make it possible for new users to come into a second layer ecosystem, especially if they don't come in with a lot of Hive and they don't want to necessarily plonk money down until they get a feel for what's going on? Or if you do run something like a game or something like a second layer platform or a blogging platform or a community with a token. So, how do you help those services basically create their own economies, their own marketplaces, everything that comes along with this gathering? And the answer is resource credits. Let's face it, you don't need a bunch of Hive to transact on Leo Finance. You could be a millionaire using Cub.defi, or you could be really into using Leo Finance, but not actually have a ton of Hive yourself. Resource credits are the way to get around this. You still need to transact on the blockchain. So in the case of, I need to get someone into this ecosystem, I need to make more people, like Leo Frontend is onboarding, I need to make more accounts. Resource credits are at the heart of being able to do this. And in a lot of ways, people go, oh, well, shit, that doesn't drive demand for Hive. And the answer is yes, it does. Because maybe the person being onboarded doesn't need a lot of Hive themselves. Okay, well, that's a problem. But to be created or to be supported by a front end, let's use Leo Finance for an example. Leo Finance has to have Hive. They need to hold and stake Hive to have those resource credits to delegate. And so the reality is it means that we can encourage businesses, dApps, services, games, whatever, we can encourage them to make sure to hold enough stake that they can influence the network, that they can have governance, but also that they can support their users. And what that means is their users, if they don't want to, never even have to know about Hive. Their whole experience or their game or their assets can be powered by the Hive blockchain. They can get all of those benefits, but they can also really be supported by the platform that they're using. And the end result is you've still got people who are using the Hive blockchain, and you've still got a lot of stake that is locked up and being used by arguably some of the big players who should be the ones having an impact on governance. The dApps and the products and services built on top of the blockchain, they have the most important say when it comes to tech developments. Here's what we need to get bigger. Here's what we want to see happen with the software to make this ecosystem better. Maybe not the best say, but an important say. And then as an individual, you can decide, do I want to get into governance? Do I want to get into curating? Is the layer one important to me? Is all the stuff that I can do with Hive important to me? And they can choose to invest, power up, whatever they may want to do. It's giving more options, and it's sort of taking away some of the handcuffs that we have. And that's the whole point of this next hard fork. We want to make it easier for you to come into the space, whether that is to bring users in as a platform, to be a new user and to be supported by services around the platform, whether that is you want to run infrastructure and you want to start being able to spin up your own nodes, whether you want to build your own project here. Everything at the heart of this next hard fork is about making it easier to use and broadening the amount of people and basically smushing down these impediments to really using Hive to build cool stuff, whether that's personal relationships all the way up to multi-million-dollar businesses. What do you want to do? Hive can power it. How do we make sure that that is for everyone? That's what this is about. All right, so now that I've evangelized a whole bunch, the whole point of this show today was to sort of collect some feedback about this new hard fork and get ready to write and create some videos about it to help more people understand what's happening. And of course, that's really not what we've ended up talking about. These shows are very flexible. They are alive, and they're based a lot around what you guys want to talk about, what you guys want to do, and what you guys want to listen to. So I've played you everything under the sun, from sort of some cool, dark, retro wave outrun to some fun 1980s upbeat pop bass synths, and to literally a disco mashup. So we've hit all of the decades and all of the buttons and all of the styles, and we would definitely want to continue on with that. So I was thinking, let's continue by picking another new little niche of music and playing a new release, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of see what's left on your guys' plates before the end of the show that maybe I can address or touch on. So I'm gonna play something. I'm gonna play something by Thomas Barrandon. And the last time that I played music for you, I played a track called "The Quiet Earth" off an album called "The Quiet Earth," and it was a very sort of beautiful, ethereal, sci-fi kind of synthwave. Well, we're taking that. Fuck that shit. We're not doing that anymore. Today's release is very much like a chiptune. It's very kind of like when you were a kid and you heard those 8-bit or like low sort of, no, I don't want to say low quality. It's such a terrible thing to say, but sort of these very MIDI music and very compressed, tinny, computer style things in your video games or whatever else. And so chiptune kind of became a part of techno music. It became a part of electronic music. And there's a part of synthwave too that sounds a lot like old 1980s video games. And there's quite a bit of synthwave out there. So heck, I'm going to play you something that has a little bit of vibes that sound like that. So I'm going to play you something that came out earlier this year. It came out in April, and I'm going to play you a track called Run. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz. We talk about the retro future and disruptive technology, sometimes the Hive blockchain. Today, definitely the Hive blockchain. We have a lot of fun, and we listen to good music together. So if you've been sticking with me for the past couple hours, you're awesome, and I appreciate you. I hope you are having a fabulous Saturday. We'll listen to a couple more tracks. We'll come back and chat a little bit more before the show is over. So don't run away. That's bad. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Can you guys hear this? Let me know if you can hear it. comments out of nowhere. Hey, all right. So listen, my headphones crapped out for some reason. So that was like, I was listening over here on my phone to myself in a weird nepotistic way. So, hey, welcome. Yeah, I'm starting to absolutely overheat. Thank God. Look at how sweaty I am. Ugh, I'm gross. So I'm here on the west coast of Canada. And it is beautiful, it's warm, it's sunny, but we don't normally get too hot over here in Vancouver. We're very much sort of the Goldilocks of Canada in that we're never too hot, we're never too cold, we don't get temperatures like back east. But the problem being that when we do get really hot, we get really, really hot and it sucks. And so in this case, we are experiencing a heat dome event. It's touching upwards of 30 degrees today, which isn't the hottest, but as it goes up, the humidity goes up, and over here, we don't do humidity. Vancouver, it's not a thing we do. Back east, everybody does humidity. We panic and then die. We don't have AC. We're not very good with heat. And earlier in this, earlier in this week, the forecast came up and everybody's just being prepared for this pain, inevitable pain. But in a couple days, we'll be going upwards of 40 degrees. That's a lot in the city. You know, if you live somewhere where that's a normal temperature, that's fine. But it's absolutely not normal here. And you're not wrong. Like, a lot of places are experiencing like crazy, crazy summers. And truth be told, us too. It's not the norm. And the last couple summers have been very hot. Like, so hot that I did actually buy an air conditioner for the first time this year, mostly for my dogs. But so yeah, the door is open. I'm, in a lot less functional clothing than I normally would be. I normally just be rocking, a band t-shirt or whatever. And that's fine, but it's hot and I don't like it. And I'm not built for it. I don't know if you noticed, but being redheaded and fair-skinned and covered in freckles and whatever, it ain't good for being heat resistant. And I know for many of you, you are from places that are warm, and you know what? Yes, you're good at tolerating the heat. I'm not. Let's just... Cool. I suck. It's fine. I get it. Oh, Lord. Lord Almighty. All right. So, to recap, we've touched a lot of stuff today. We've gotten our fingers into everything, haven't we? The original intent of today's show was to talk a lot about the Hive Hardfork, the upcoming Hive Hardfork. We have a tentative date. Tentative is a great name. We have a tentative date of August the 9th. Now, the reality is pretty likely that that's going to be the Hardfork date. It's actually very likely. But there will be testing going on this weekend that will sort of indicate whether or not that's what we do. The likelihood is high. So one of the things that needs to happen now is we need to get prepared to officially announce this date, do all of the work to make sure people who have already built dApps and services on top of the Hive blockchain and who are using different forms of the API, or who are making calls to things like the account history, a very heavy portion of HiveD. All of this is going to change in how we do it, and it's going to change to be more economical, more fast, and easier. High five from Russia. That's awesome. Gattaca, thank you for popping in. I always love sort of seeing these things through a first-timer's eyes. So cool. Thanks for hopping in, and thanks for the follow. So for those of you who are around Twitch, this is a new thing. I am now officially an affiliate. I don't know what it means other than that you could subscribe, and I think I get like some money for that, which is cool. Thank you. If you do, don't worry if you don't. But if you want to watch or listen to this show, a lot of people do come into the Discord and they're used to the Discord. The Discord sounds like crap, but that is where we sort of broadcast, the main place for people to chat, to hang out, to listen to the audio and the live radio portion of the show. However, one of the interesting things is over the years, this has sort of advanced, and it is a strange concept to do live radio that has a visual component. And yet, it's what I do. So live streaming for CyberBuzz Radio and Full Force Radio, it is meant to mostly be audible. I want you to listen to great music. I want to talk at you for a couple hours, keep you entertained. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll have a lot of fun. Maybe it'll be like Thursday where I drop some philosophy bombs on you. But also, there is a component. If you are interested in sort of the video side of it, you can do that too. You can come hang out, you can watch, you can participate, you can do whatever you like. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. So with that being said, there are more DJs on MSP Waves, and if you've never checked them out, you should go to mspwaves.com and you should take a look at all of the different shows on the schedule, because frankly, there is a mixed bag, and anything you're interested in, somebody probably does a show that will kind of make you happy. So I think later tonight we will have Uncle Bonehead and Johnny Gear Jammer doing Loud and Proud, and then in the evening, Clay, all the way from Argentina, will be doing Coffee and Philosophy with Cope. Lazy Sundays with Mackenzie Gary. Monday is Clown World. Tuesday is Making Stuffs, Meadows and Makers. Maybe Wednesday is Clown World. Listen, I'm not a schedule. Go look at the schedule. If you want to find me next, I'll be here on Thursday doing Full Force Radio, which is nothing like today. It's absolutely useless. You will learn nothing. I will not explain it will not explain technology to you. I will essentially just yell at you and then play really loud, scary heavy metal. It's fucking delightful. Highly recommend you come back. So, with that, knowing that there's only 15 minutes left in the show, I do have some more good music. I have some great music, and we can do that. We could play just music till the end of the show if you want. Or if you got questions, comments, topics that you want to talk about, now is the time. You can co-opt the show. You can throw them in there. We talked mostly about account history, the Hive application framework, how requirements for technology will go down. Infrastructure will be easier to run, and how consensus nodes and block logs will be able to pass compressed blocks to each other. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. And a lot of it's very technical, which is not fun to explain. So that's the goal of today's show, is to talk to you guys, to hear what you think, to know what you care about, and then translate that directly into a way to make this hard fork and what's going to happen, explain it to you, and also kind of like get you excited for it. That was the goal. If you don't have anything related to that, no problem. We'll play some more Synthwave. I got Synthwave. And in fact, I have some very sort of pop inspired, sort of like, yeah, a little bit of 80s sort of dark pop. If earlier was sort of the bright, shiny 1980s, then I have a track by Grum with a guest singer on it that is sort of a little bit more angsty 80s synth pop. And we could do that because honestly, there's not a ton of time left in the show, but I always want to make you guys happy. Given that I'm not seeing anything immediately pop up, let's do it. I'm gonna play you a track called 80s Dark Pop. What the hell? Dude, if you can name pretty much any combination of emotions, time periods, and music genres, they exist. It's kind of like it's kind of like the unfortunate porn rule on the internet. If it exists, there is porn of it. That is a truth. Like, you can't deny it. It's just a truth. If something exists, someone somewhere has made porn of it. It's just the truth. But you can also take any combination. Pick a decade. Pick a way that you're feeling, and then pick a genre of music, and then just smash them together. Somebody out there has made it. Doesn't mean it's good, but it does mean somebody's made it. You know, like 1960s, existential crisis, orchestral. Somebody's made that. Somebody has made that. 1,000%. It's not even a question. Like, I don't know, Baroque. I'm running out of things. Baroque, nostalgic, fucking, yeah. No, ferret's not an emotion. You tried though. 70s power ferret. Although frankly, patent pending, I'm stealing 70s power ferret. I'm going to make an actual traditional heavy metal band. I'm going to paint a panel van, and on the side of it will be a ferret, but like airbrushed in the style of Manowar. So it will be a ferret wearing like leather chaps and like wrist bracers, holding a sword that's being struck by lightning. It's mine now. You said it. I took it. No, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to give me permission. I already took it. Patent pending. I said patent pending. But also, ferret is an animal, not a type of music. whatever. We'll come up with some fun combinations. We'll make bands that don't exist. If you never come to Full Force Radio, there is a really funny Twitter account called This Band Does Not Exist. And it is delightful. It is an AI that writes fake song names and then feeds those fake song names into an AI that generates a picture based on the fake song name by the fake band. And it makes the most ridiculous heavy metal ever. And actually, like 50% of the tracks I wish were actually turned into real music because they sound amazing. Okay, let's do it. 80s pop. We'll come back. We'll say goodbye. My name is Crimson Clad. This is CyberBuzz Radio.
Build me so I won't fall down. Will you catch me now? Are you sure you're out? And there you go, touche. I rip through the silence. Too late, and this won't divide us. Loose change makes you heavier. Try just hold my weight. Say it now. And don't look down. Just feel the sound and spin me round on battleground and say it now. Forget the road. Never too quick, just take it slow. Not letting you down, you'll never come around, so say it now.
All right. My darlings, we are coming towards the very end of the show, and that's kind of sad, isn't it? How does the time go so quickly? 2 full hours has passed. We've still got a couple minutes left in the show, but probably not quite long enough to play another song. I do have one more song on my playlist, but it's got more time than I have. People are making the face about the eternal boner of winter. So I dropped in chat the AI metal bot. This band isn't real, and it's the AI bot that creates the name of a band and then creates the name of a song and then creates an AI generated cover for the song by the band that doesn't exist. And so the one that I put on the screen looks like it could legit be a real band, a real song, anybody, anytime, anywhere. But one of the nights that we first discovered this bot, we were honestly laughing our pants off because the song was literally something called like the eternal boner of winter. And the AI created a giant, like, it was essentially this incredible picture of a giant, like, glowing plasma penis rising out of the landscape of, like, snowy trees and mountains. And so, yeah, just when in doubt, never forget the eternal boner of winter. It was absolutely fucking delightful. I mean, here's one. Scarlet Priestess, Witches of the Fallen Sun. I mean, if I thought this was a real band, I would 1000% pick up this album. This is sick. This cover art is sick. Everything about this is amazing. God damn. I want that on a shirt. So, in any case, that's not really where we're at. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of time left in this show, and I could spend all of the time left in the show basically ranting at you and showing you AI created things. But I thought, given that we are at the end of the show and usually people's attention spans have dropped way off, we've lost a lot of the listeners. You guys have been here a long time. Usually everybody starts going a little bit squirrely. Things get a little bit weird. I will show you something that's just being shared around my friend group. It's safe for work, but just barely. So, you know, often on this show, we talk about AI, we talk about robotics, we talk about future tech, we talk a little bit about how AI that learns, that can be iterative, generative adversarial networks, and sort of all of the algorithms and programming and data collection that goes into that. How can it be used to build cool services? And, you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about how Amazon uses it. We've talked about, you know, some of the cool stuff that comes along with this generative text and art. But here is one, given that we are, you know, officially talking about boners, whether in winter or otherwise. Here is a fun little thing that is completely not Hive related, but that you guys can see. And that is that there is officially now a voice-controlled blowjob robot. She's terrifying. She's a head on wheels. She rolls across the ground. She's got creepy little grabby hands, and she uses AI. Her name is Autoblow, by the way. She uses AI to learn how to give different, I watched it. It's good. I mean, yes, actually, you're not wrong. But so here she is. She comes rolling across like, kill me, with her terrifying dead eyes and her little grippy grabster hands. And she has an entire library powered by artificial intelligence. You can grab all of the different types of oral stimulation that might best interest you. You can pick the one you want, and then you can use your voice to ask her to do something particular. And honestly, this is like, the Daily Star is a trash mag. I don't want to, like, honestly, I don't really even want to click on this link. I didn't want to click on it to show you guys because honestly, it's the equivalent of like giving AIDS to your computer. It's not malware. It's just, you're going to see, if you don't have an ad blocker, there's just like 37,000 ads. But nonetheless, this was crowdfunded. This is a thing. Perhaps you will enjoy the news about it. But I just want you to know that it has a very special technology. It is a user-adjustable penis gripper. You know. So, in any case, if you ever need to know what's happening on the robotics front and everything else, I'm making everybody uncomfortable. Should I say penis gripper 13 more times before the show runs out? I've only got 30 seconds left. Should I see how many times I can say automated user adjustable penis gripper? Penis. No, I won't. Okay. Listen, today's show has been everywhere, and I'm going to have to edit it heavily because it was supposed to be talking largely about Hive. But of course, here we are in the very last seconds before the buzzer. We've fallen off the wagon once again. Listen, AI, disruptive tech, great synthwave, a whole lot of fun. If you guys had fun, you should come back next week or visit me for Full Force Radio. But I'm at the end of my time here. I am done. Bye. Oh, penis gripper. I don't think you want your penis gripped. I don't know. I mean, it's just how I feel about it.